Glass breaks for Austin Price, Volquest.com. On Tennessee Prime last night with Josh and Swain. He joins us as we continue at the Bed Store. We welcome Austin to the show every single week thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Austin, thanks for the time as always. It's been a few days now since Tennessee got back from the road trip with the win against Pittsburgh. What do you think is the kind of proper reaction to Tennessee's 2-0 start, along with what you're looking for next as the Vols have Akron and then a big week against Florida coming up?
Solid start, exactly where you want to be. I don't make much of the reaction one way or the other just because, you knocked the quarterback out Saturday, so you did what you were supposed to do from a defensive line standpoint, getting home, getting pressure, getting to Slovis. There at the end, Tennessee, I thought, sputtered in the second half. They had multiple opportunities to put that game away, extend, and kind of run away and hide, and they weren't able to do it. They shot themselves in the foot a few times, and but they still found a way on the road with, I thought, what was their C-minus game to get a win on a day when so many other teams failed to win at home against inferior opponents.
How about the defense, AP? I mean, defense going into the season, people just looked at the offense as being the unit that was going to carry this defense like last year in Pittsburgh. That was not the case at all. The defense came ready to play, and several players on this defense, man, they letting people know, hey, we play football too. We play some defense, and we got pride in our game as well.
100%, Jason. That's 100% accurate, what you just said. They've got pride. They want to prove people wrong. They know that they took a beating at the end of last year. I mean, you look at the bowl game, Tennessee's offense wasn't the reason Tennessee lost the bowl game. Tennessee's defense was. They couldn't stop Purdue, a Purdue team that was depleted. Outside of their quarterback was running a bunch of backups out there, and, Purdue was going through them, like the 2000 Rams. So, I couldn't agree more with you, or 2001 Rams. I couldn't agree more with you. I think this defense is a proud unit led by a proud defensive coordinator in Tim Banks, and really, after a kind of a slow start in that first quarter, they got going, and they were put in some terrible positions after the block punt, the fumble, and so on and so forth. They were kind of backed up and kind of bowed their back and, really kind of forced Pitt into, some mistakes of their own, like when Pitt missed a field goal. And, this defense did its job, and a big reason why Tennessee's sitting here at 2-0.
Austin Price of Volquest.com is with us every week thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Design. So not an A performance, though, on the road. It did go to overtime. So Josh Heupel easily found things to work on both sides of the ball. I'm sure every facet when you factor in special teams. Where do you think that conversation begins and what Tennessee needs to do next? A game to work on some things, right, against Akron before you get ready for your first major SEC test against Florida?
I think you want to run the ball. I think you want to, get in, get out, get Hendon Hooker and Cedric Tillman and those guys out of the game fairly early. Let Joe Milton go to work. This is really your last chance to get Joe some real traction until the UT Martin game, just based off of, you're probably not getting blown out or blowing out any of your next handful of opponents. So, barring an injury, you're not going to be putting in your backups. And so I would want to get all those guys as much, playing time as you can, because they need the reps, and you want to, have them as crisp and sharp as possible, just in case you were to have an injury and have to go to those guys in the next handful of games. So, if I'm Josh Heupel, I want to, try to run the football. I want my special teams to be clean. They weren't clean a week ago. Defensively, see if you can find some more bodies in the secondary. I mean, again, wide receiver and in the secondary, you kind of fall into that, playing your veterans, playing them a ton of snaps and those type of things. I think Coach Garner would love to find about 15 to 20 snaps for somebody to spell Omari Thomas. Omari played about 64, 65 snaps last week. I don't think Tennessee really wants to play him that many. I think they'd love to play him between 45 and 50. So can you find a Bryson Eason or a Tyree West or somebody that can slide inside and eat a few of those snaps for Omari to have him fresher in the fourth quarter? So there's always something you can find to improve on. or to try to build upon in a game like this. But what can you take it from this week's game to next week's game, to me, is the biggest question.
Do you think that Tennessee wide receiver target, Ohio State receiver commit, Carnell Tate, has any idea that two receivers was targeted 21 times? 31 times between Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. Is that something you think Kelsey Pope, Heupel, and company letting Carnell Tate know, hey, man, we throw the ball to you over here?
Yeah, I'm positive that all these things have been discussed. Graphics have been sent. Like, it is very much it's very much a talking point. Just the targets. I mean, if you want to be in a wide receiver friendly offense, you come here. Now, with that said, I mean, Ohio State's a very wide receiver friendly offense, so they can counter that with their first round draft picks and so on and so forth. But I do think that that the way Tennessee plays is very appealing even for a guy like Ryan Wingo, who's a 5-star 2024 wide receiver from Missouri. He was at Pitt Saturday. He'll be in Knoxville next week for the Florida game, and that means that he'll see Tennessee play two times in 3 weeks. That is a perfect opportunity for for Tennessee to establish themselves for the long run with Ryan Wingo. So it's not just Carnell Tate; it's also Traylon Ray. It's younger guys like Wingo that get a chance to see Tennessee put up a ton of stats, put up a ton of points, yards, and put up a ton of targets to their wide receivers.
Austin Price, Volquest.com, is with us. Austin, I'm sure you've been asked a number of times, as we have as well. Anything you hear on Juwan Mitchell with his status? And then to that position group, what do you think of what you've seen from the guys starting out? And then maybe the depth question that would still exist depending on Juwan's availability.
I expect Juwan Mitchell to play this week. I expect him to be back. And I think it's important, to get him as much run as possible, because you need him to kind of knock the rust off before next week's game against Florida, because I think you'll need him against the Gators. So, while some of those players that are starters or basically quickly into the game, even if they don't start, I don't know if you have to play them, 70 snaps Saturday. I think it's important to play Juwan Mitchell as many snaps as possible, just to kind of let him get his feet wet and knock the rust off.
What stood out to you from last night's broadcast, Tennessee Prime? We had Kamal Hadden, Jalen Hyatt, good 30 solid minutes with those two guys. Anything that stood out to you that even today you're thinking about going, hey, man, that was good stuff right there?
Well, I think that just their mentality, Kamal Hadden really embracing, Tennessee and realizing it more and more by the day, what he has here. I mean, how many times did he reference watching some of the players he's teammates with now, or, opponents now, when he was in JUCO? I think he referenced JUCO 3-4 times within the broadcast. And I think it, to me, was a realization, man, that's a hard life. He kind of made it out and made it through. And so he has a greater appreciation for the finer things at Tennessee because of it. So, and then, of course, Jalen Hyatt is a well-spoken kid who I think, because of his struggles a year ago, has a greater appreciation for the game, and talked about how much he loves the game last night. So, I mean, I think both guys just have an appreciation for different things, but they ultimately end up back to a greater appreciation for football in Tennessee.
Austin, this is a week ahead, but I guess we'll find out in a few days. Any chance Knoxville gets game day next week? We were trying to figure out what the top competition would be. Wake Clemson would be on that list probably as potential competition. What do you think, game day for Tennessee, Florida?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's possible, but at the same time, I mean, I think it would almost be a near sure lock had Florida not lost to Kentucky. But they did lose to Kentucky, so
yep.
I think it probably makes it a little harder. But you never know. I mean, they've made decisions they try to plan it in advance. So if they got a destination next week that they may be using 2 or 3 weeks down the line for an even bigger game with that school, it may end up being Tennessee, Florida next week. Well, we'll see. I mean, it'll be the first time that Tennessee's hosted a game day since 2016, and so we'll see if that plays out that way.
A lot of things going on at the beginning of the season, recruiting. Let the good people know the special at On 3, what you guys are doing over there at Volquest.com.
Well, it's $1 for 1 year, and for all the coverage you get, I don't think you can beat it. The community on the general's quarters is second to none, and whether it be the Rocky Top Roundtable, which just went live. I had an exclusive sit-down interview with Aaron Beasley discussing his suspension over a year ago and how far he's come and what he learned out of that. That was earlier today. We've got our VolQuest stock report coming up later this afternoon. So it's just daily quality content at VolQuest.com. $1 for 1 year. You can find that amount of money in the change tray in your car, in the cup holder, or in the couch at home, that's gotten down in the crevices. So, you can't beat it. Just $1 for 1 year.
What? That's kind of tough for somebody like Swain, though, because he doesn't carry anything below a 10 or 20. I can't remember which one it is, but he doesn't have ones anymore.
I'm broke.
It's not quite the deal, since I've been challenged on Twitter to get and Swain, you're tagged in this, to get an Andy Griffith reference in. It's not quite the deal that Aunt B got on all the meat that time when she went away from Mr. Foley's meat market and disobeyed Andy, but it's still a really good deal.
Yeah, I remember that episode. It was on YouTube the other day.
You have no clue what I'm talking about.
You know what? I'll tell you this, man. I grew up, and it was on TV a lot. That's for sure. So the times I did watch it, it wasn't because
it's classic.
Had to. Because it wasn't because I wanted to. It's because I had to. So I do remember the show, just not all the episodes clearly.
You should do a segment. The two of you should do a segment each week called Nip It. And okay. Barney would say, nip it, and that basically takes sound bites from the week where you feel like somebody should just shut up, and it should be called Nip It.
I think we already do that, Austin. It's when I try to tell a dad joke, and Swain says, you need to nip it.
Nip it now, Josh.
There it is. So, well, he's a natural, so if we make it a full-time thing, Swain is ready to go. Go on over to Volquest.com. You'll read and see the work from Austin and his colleagues, and every week we have Austin on the show thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, making it unique, making it special, making it just for you. I want to be your jeweler there at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Austin, thank you as always, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.